Diana.
Okay, we got a little bit of a late start today. We had a power outage. It is now 6:07. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Adam, will you please take roll call?
Thank you, Chair. Portola Square North, Nate Castillo. Portola Square South, Justin Richards. Blackstock North, Nancy Rand. Blackstock South, Christopher Bissonette. Bryce Canyon North, John Hike. Cabrillo Rainey Stefan. Cal Giesler, Teresa. Thank you. Carriage Square, Lynn Schulman. Channel Islands, Dave Copper. College Estates, John Beck. Diamond Bar, Dennis Ralph. East Village, Ronald Arejo. El Rio West, Dan Ryberg. 5 Points Northeast, Pat Brown. Fremont North, Dave Ebbett. Fremont South, Kim Winch. Hobson Park East, Roger Poirier. Hobson Park West, Cecilia Ravello. Hollywood by the Sea, Michelle Carrillo. Kamala Park, Bill Winter. La Colonia, Ramon Lopez.
Here.
Orchard Park, Diana Velzy.
Here.
Oxnard Dunes, Lisa Hewitt.
Here.
Oxnard Shores, Walt Hagedum. Pleasant Valley Estates, Rosanna Biggerstaff. Redwood, Carlos Quiroz. Rio Lindo, Sandy Diaz. River Park, Paul Schendeblin. Rose Park, Alfonso Arroyo. Sea Air, Edward Castillo. Seaview Estates, Isaac Calaf. Sierra Linda, Sergio Garcia. South Bank, Debbie Aravello. South Wind, Sofia Vega. Tierra Vista, Christina Thomas. Via Marina, Doug Tauber. Wagon Wheel, Amanda Meir. West Village, Michael Gleason. Wilson, Angela Wycombe. And Windsor North, Andres Sanchez. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's please all stand, place your hand on your heart, and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have the approval of minutes now, dated February 7th, 2024. If anybody could if everybody will take a look at it and make any motions if necessary for corrections or motions to approve.
Chair Velzy,
Yes,
I'd like to make a small correction.
okay,
On future agenda items, I asked more specifically for a report on executive board goals for the INCO in 2024.
okay. Thank you. Is there any other changes, any other motions? Is everybody okay with that motion? Okay, no objections? Okay, any,
I'll make a motion to approve.
thank you. Who seconds? Okay, Chris seconds. Dave at first and Chris second. Okay, with the, I'd like to,
Chair, do you want to do a vote on that?
I was getting ready to say that. I was just trying to get my words. But yes, I'd like to approve the minutes. I'd like to take a vote on the approval of the minutes as changed per Roger. Everybody who is in agreement, please say aye. Aye. Okay, any objections? No. With that, let's go ahead and the minutes are now approved. February 7th, 2024, with the changes as made by Roger Poirier. Okay. All right, public comments. Is there anybody that needs to make a public comment? Is there anybody online that would, okay. All right, so let's move on to New business. Subject, solid waste refuse rates. Recommendations that the general membership receives a verbal presentation from an Environmental Resource Division of Public Works on refuse rates and cost of service, followed by a question and answer. Hi.
Hey, good evening, Chair Belsey and Chair 1, 2, 3, 4, or 2, 3, 4. Good evening. I'm Brian Yanas, Assistant Public Works Director, and we're going to provide a brief verbal report on where we've been with our environmental resources, which is our solid waste division for Public Works and for the city, where we've been and what we've done over the last almost 2 years. So we started with our consultant, Riftalis, who gathered all the information, provided a cost of service study for the city, which then had scenarios of how we're going to adjust our solid waste rates for residential, commercial, industrial customers. That went to City Council on December 5th. We kind of went through the scenarios. We were directed by City Council to select scenario 3, which was a rate adjustment and full capital expenditures, which means to capture all our capital projects and our investments for providing collection services and processing the material we do collect. Since then, we've had altogether 4 council meetings, 4 community meetings, and here we're doing a brief presentation for you all tonight. We've mailed out our Prop 218 notices early in February. I believe, those were mailed out well in advance of our Prop 218 requirements. We've came back to City Council on February 27th for an update, and then March 4th, which was this last Monday, providing pretty much the information that I'm providing with you tonight. Again, we had those meetings, we had the outreach meetings. The outreach meetings consisted of some stations, but I'm gonna let Eric Zetz, our Environmental Resources Manager, kind of describe of some of those community meetings that we've had for those of you that might have not attended, but we did have some of the chairs, neighborhood chairs attend some of these meetings, which was great to see. We've provided as much information as we can and answered some of the questions that were asked at these community meetings. So that being said, we'll introduce again Eric Zetz, our Environmental Resources Manager, and he'll kind of give a brief scenario again of our community meetings.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, board members, chair members. My name is Eric Zetz, as Brian indicated. I'm the Environmental Resources Manager at the Del Norte Material Recycling Facility. So if you haven't been over there, we encourage you to go. Just a heads up, we do give tours. So if that is something that you and your community members are interested in, it is a facility that we do provide tours. So just a heads up on that. As Brian has mentioned, the city of Oxnard held several public workshops to inform the public on the results of a cost of service study that was recently conducted by the city. To date, as Brian mentioned, there have been 4 public held meetings. Those meetings were held on November 15, 2023 in South Oxnard Center, December 13, 2023 in the Oxnard Council Chambers, January 30th of 2024 in the Oxnard Council Chambers, and again February 29th, 2024 in the South Oxnard Center. So those are the 4 public meetings. The cost of service study was presented to the Oxnard City Council meeting at their meeting on December 5th. And so at that meeting, that's where scenario 3 was selected. There were 4 scenarios by Riftalis, which is the company that did the rate study. Of those 4 scenarios, scenario 3 was selected at that meeting. The public workshops that the city has held for the public was giving the public an opportunity to understand both the cost of service study. So we did have our consultant available for those meetings. It went over the city's goals as it relates to the Environmental Resources Division and its goals for going forward. Provided variable inputs, and then did discuss the scenario 3 that was selected. It also discussed the process and timelines associated with the solid waste rates. The Environmental Resources Division is an enterprise fund. So this is not a general fund. This is an enterprise fund. This operation provides municipal solid waste services to Oxnard residents, businesses, and it's comprised of approximately 201,000 customers. This is a 6-day operation, so this is Monday through Saturday. We do actually operate on some Sundays if there's some sort of emergency that occurs, but we are closed on Sundays primarily, and it's a Monday through Saturday operation. It serves about 34,000 residential customers and serves just over 5,000 commercial customers. The Environmental Resources Division, the services that are offered by the city, it involves the collection of the materials, it involves the sorting of those materials, the processing, the transportation, and the transferring of any materials. And the materials are consistent of the 3 waste streams: municipal solid waste, recyclables, and then organic green waste that does include food waste. The Environmental Resources Division has historically provided all of these services in-house. So this is a city that operates all streams by city staff, and has been doing that while meeting local and state mandates that have come down the pipe. The City Council last approved a cost of service study in May of 2012. At that time, that cost of service study resulted in rate increases that became effective in January of 2013. The authorized rate increases and decreases established then cumulatively represented a 2.1% increase in the residential rates and a 2.7% increase in the commercial rates. However, over that same decade, the Consumer Price Index elevated to 33.9%. So you can see that if the inflationary items go up and you're not consistent with the rate increase, it's an enterprise fund, there's a deficit. Based upon the draft fiscal year 2023-24 cost of service study, the Environmental Resources Division of the City of Oxnard in the Public Works Department anticipates that our expenditures are going to outpace our revenues, resulting in a negative ending cash balance no later than fiscal year 24-25, which is the current fiscal year that we're in today. So a combination of minimal rate increases, right? The city has not had a rate increase in over a decade, unfunded state mandates, elevated inflation, and the need for significant capital investments in order to replace, rehabilitate, and replace aging assets that we have is expected to result in a growing structural deficit. You should know, as an industry and for best management practices, enterprise rates should cover the cost for the service that it's providing. Enterprise rates should also establish an appropriate level for cash reserves so that in the event that there's a drop-off in service or customers or a downturn in those that pay into that fund, you have cash reserves that can help sustain you. And then rates should be evaluated every 3 to 5 years. And so in this case, we hadn't had a rate increase since 2012, so we're well overdue in that scenario. Riftelis Financial Consultants was placed under contract in December of 2022. Riftelis is the company, the financial consultants that prepared the rate study. It was independent, it was separate and apart from the city. So the city provided information as related to what Riftelis was requesting, and then they prepared this study. The study that was prepared supports the recommended changes to the current rates and fee structure. And this study is found online. So we have www.oxnard.org/refuse rates available for anyone in the public. You can see the Prop 218 notice there. You can see the 89-page cost of service study there. You can see some of the former videos that we televise from the public workshops there. You have access to staff reports, meeting minutes. It is all at that www.oxnard.org/refuse rates. So I want to touch on just a little bit on our operation. So for the environmental resources operation, we currently recycle approximately just under 25,000 tons of recyclable materials each year. We also handle approximately 22,000 tons of organics and green waste, and this includes food waste. Annually, we process 317,000 tons of municipal solid waste or trash. And we've invested, the city has invested approximately $60 million in land, capital improvements, the MRF, equipment. So there's a large investment by the city that's already in place. Environmental Resources has about 138 pieces of equipment. This includes just over 100 heavy-duty trucks. These are the refuse trucks and what have you. And then approximately about 29 smaller vehicles. Some of the other services that Environmental Resources provides, we not only provide trash and recycling collection, and we've got the Del Norte Material Recycling Facility and Transfer Station. The city, through this Environmental Resources Division, does provide city cleanups. We have a staff that implements the mandatory recycling laws of the state, and I'll touch on that a little bit. We have a household hazardous waste area for the public and the residents to use for universal household hazardous waste. We have a bottle and can buyback center, so the public can access our bottle and can buyback center and get some redemptive value there. And then we also provide construction and demolition waste management. For CIP investments, we have a material recycling facility that is 27 years old. And so this material recycling facility is aging. And so what ends up happening with that facility is that as we have repairs, the repairs amount, it's a 31 belt system that's, quite old. It's past its life expectancy. And as we make repairs to one segment of the belt, it can impact other segments in the leg of the 31 belts. And so we are seeing maintenance costs on that to repair and replace anywhere from a couple $100,000 to upwards of $1.5 million. And this is per repair. And we've been in some weeks where we've had 2 and 3 belts down in a particular 2-week span, and it impacts everything that we do. So, and you should know that the infrastructure that's there at the MRF site, it's concrete on the bottom. This rate increase does not propose to take us somewhere else. We are going to reuse that area there. We're going to reuse the shell that's there. We've got a capital improvement project. One of the things is the roof has already been approved by the council to be replaced, and that's an over $7 million project just on its own. So we're going to put a new system inside of that as the proposal of scenario 3. It's not to get bigger or do something else. It's to use a one-for-one like type system so we can continue our operations. Annual average maintenance cost for our equipment is something in the order of $19,000 to $20,000 per equipment as the costs go for maintenance. Current price of a refuse truck is somewhere between $340,000, $350,000, right? And that continues to go up. The state has mandated some clean advanced fuel policies, and so we anticipate that when we have to convert, this cost of $340,000 is going to go up by as much as 200%. And so, the rate study looked into a 5-year outlook of not only meeting the regulations and the law, but trying to figure out ways to do it efficiently. So that's a little bit on our capital improvement projects. So let's talk about our state regulations. These are the unfunded state mandates. On the unfunded state mandates, many years ago in California Code of Regulations, Title 14, Section 17331 was enacted. When that was enacted, it required trash to be removed from all properties. This would be commercial, residential, industrial. This is all properties, once each 7 days. And so California mandated a weekly pickup of trash many years ago. When that went into play, following that, in 1989, California then passed Assembly Bill 939. And when Assembly Bill 939 came in, it required a 25% reduction of recyclable materials from that trash by 1995. So at that time, the public may have seen cart tubs and things that you would hand tip, but the law said that everybody in residential had to have this 25% diversion by 1995 of their once-a-week trash service. Then AB 939 increased that to 50% diversion in 2000. And so that's where you saw some of the recycle tubs then go away, and you had a 96-gallon cart now for recyclables. It's because of AB 939. AB 341 then came in 2012, which then required commercial spaces and industrial spaces to recycle. This was new. Recycling for commercial generally wouldn't happen in the past, and this required that. So that came in 2012. And then in January 1 of 2016, we had Assembly Bill 1826. Now, as I tell you these are, all of what I'm telling you is in the cost of service study. So please know that information is there. Don't feel you got to write any of this down. But Assembly Bill 1826 then required mandatory commercial organics. And so now we had a commercial requirement that required the organics, and this was in 2016, for the commercial sector. Well, in 2016, Senate Bill 1383 began, and that required mandatory organics for residential and for all properties. And what Senate Bill 1383 did is that it became effective on January 1 of 2022. And when it did, it required a 50% reduction of organic waste by 2020 of the agency's 2014 disposal numbers. So this would look at the city of Oxnard's 2014 waste generation numbers, and we would have to generate 50% of that volume today, or by 2020. So anybody knows that generation rates and growth usually increase, and so your trash rates should increase. So therefore, they're telling you they as you increase more, they're really wanting you to recycle more. Senate Bill 1383 also then added that by 2025, there needed to be, instead of 50% reduction, a 75% reduction in organic waste diversion. And so weekly now, that is the requirement on commercial, residential, and industrial. And Senate Bill 1383 did something that the other laws did not do. The other laws, and you'll see it, there are some communities, they don't have recycle bins. They don't have organic bins. They may not even go once a week on all of these streams. And the reason why they don't is because the former law said, former laws were of a good effort. So the terminology for jurisdictions was my good effort might be this way, and another jurisdiction's good effort could be something different. What Senate Bill 1383 did was it did away with the good effort, and it made it mandatory. And when it made it mandatory, it put requirements that you couldn't use lack of staff or lack of equipment to satisfy this law. And then they bolstered with a fine, a penalty to the agency. And actually, this penalty can be assessed to property owners as well. The fine is up to $10,000 per day per event. So if one customer doesn't have their organics bin, that's the event. And each day that is not, and that would be the day of service, each day that is not, that is the fine that can be assessed. So that's really what we're up against, and I will tell you the difference between Senate Bill 1383 and what the prior laws are is good faith versus mandatory. Senate Bill 1383 is now a mandatory requirement. So finally, and we'll get into questions. I'm sorry to take so much time, but I will say you asked for us to be here. So proposed rates. So the reason for the rate increase. Again, the city's last rate study for solid waste services was conducted in 2012. Remember, I told you that enterprise fund, you need to reevaluate these rates every 3 to 5 years. Just, you go up, you go down, you try to make sure that we're not in a for-profit business. We're trying to provide the services for the fees, right? The proposed rates are needed to provide adequate funding for operational capital funding, cost increases for collecting, processing, and disposing of solid waste, Labor and equipment costs, as we all know, fuel is going up. We talked about Senate Bill 1383. So what happens in the event that there is no rate increase? If there is no rate increase, the services are going to be impacted. We currently today are not meeting Senate Bill 1383 in several ways. The city is on a corrective action plan as we sit here today. So we will have a possible levy of fines. This will violate state and health codes that are in what we've already discussed. And so the city then could be in a precarious position and services impacted. How were the rates calculated? So the city used Reftelis. Reftelis, it was a formal bid, a competitive bid, and so Reftelis was selected. And they're a firm that's very knowledgeable in enterprise fund, in solid waste and water and wastewater and those types of rate studies. And so they performed a very qualified, a very expansive cost of service study. And so that service study is online, available for the public. And then I do want to point out that for low and fixed income, and this is very important, the city of Oxnard does offer a utility rate assistance program. And that is called Project Assist. And so, and it offers income eligible customers a $25 monthly discount on their utility bill. Residents can visit www.oxnard.org/project-assist for additional details, or they can call the Project Assist staff at 805-385-8060. And as Brian has indicated, that concludes my presentation. We are here to answer any questions you may have.
Could you repeat that phone number again?
Absolutely. It is the phone number for low and fixed income for the Oxnard Utility Rate Assistance Project Assist Program is 805-385-8060.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay, I'll open the floor up for anybody that has questions. Anybody? No? How about online? Do we have anybody online?
And we could get in touch with you through this video or whatever.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right,
Yeah,
all right, thank you.
you're very welcome.
I have a couple of questions, but before I do you want to ask any questions? Dave? No? I think I already know the answer to this, but I just want a clarification. Are you saying that the scenario 3, that was just the selection as to where they wanted, the city council wanted to head? Is that correct? That's not necessarily the approval of was that completed before it was opened up to the public? Because it looks like all the public stuff was done after that approval, but I think they were just choosing that. Is that correct?
So the public has been nestled both before and after and around. And so the 4 public workshops, there's also been 4 council meetings that are not a part of those dates that the public had access to. Okay. So the public's had an access to these at every venue. And these have also been posted on our website as we have been going through it. So anyone that's been following the website that was initially advertised at the very first meeting would have been able to follow any of the other successive meetings that were coming up because it was listed on that website. To answer the question, the Reftelis consultants had proposed 4 scenarios. 2 of the scenarios were not fully funded. You didn't fund the full capital. You didn't fund the full sources. You kind of limped along, if you will. Some might have called it you're driving to failure in a way, because you're going to have to make a decision at some point, either now or in the next 3 to 5 years, of what you're going to do with those services you don't have funds to provide, right? So those were 2 of the scenarios. Now, Then there were two scenarios that were fully funded, fully capital, and of those two fully funded, fully capital scenarios, the council chose the lesser expensive of the two, which was scenario 3.
Okay, and are there, this is kind of not, well, anyways, is there some recycling programs that we do that bring actually income or revenue to the city?
Absolutely. We have a generation of revenue that comes from the recyclable commodities. So it's very important that the resident do recycle and not contaminate their recyclable streams, because that material comes to our Del Norte facility and we have hand sorters that will pull the contamination out to produce, go through the belts, and then be source streamed into a recyclable bale. Those bales are highly profitable for the city of Oxnard. I will tell you, the bales of recyclables that we have in the city of Oxnard are higher cost or higher revenue for our bales, upwards to $100 in some cases per bale of a recyclable commodity. That is, if you were to compare us to, say, Los Angeles, where they're not as they've got more contamination in their bales. They don't have the hand sorters. They're using AI technology. They're trying to, and so things pass through and it contaminates their bales. That revenue is anywhere from $3 to $4 million. It can be as high as 5 or 6 in a year if there's a really good recyclable commodity that comes from the public. But if it's not, it can be less, and that revenue goes against the rates. So that would go back into the system to make the rates go down.
Yeah. Okay, and I've been to a couple of those meetings, but I forgot, was that considered in the review of the company that, the income that we get from our recyclables, was that considered as a set off from?
It was, and it's included in the cost of service study. You can access that online. It will be there.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And the repairs of all this, your belts and everything, is it getting more expensive for your the belts and everything, the equipment? Why don't you just replace it instead of just throwing money away, wasting all this money away?
Right. So to answer your question, yes, it is getting more expensive. Each repair, right? The cost of steel is going up. The cost of labor, when we have to consult somebody outside to come in to do the work, that goes up. The facility is somewhere between the order of $33 to $36 million to replace entirely. And that is in the scenario 3. Now, as we replace belts, as we make an improvement to one belt in that 31 belt system, it then impacts other belts, where some of those that are dilapidated, if this one's stout, it causes failures downstream.
Yeah, like it travels down.
Yep, correct.
Chris?
Chris Bissett, Blackstock South. Just 3 common questions to elaborate on, please. The city council is going to be voting on this when?
March 19th.
The Project Assist program, could you go into it a little more detail?
I'm going to have Brian Yanez talk about that.
Chair, to answer your question on the Project Assist program, it is a program that started at least 6 years ago, where they take the late fees from all the utility bills, which is solid waste, refuse, water, wastewater, and then provide this program. At one point, it was $15 per bill, which is all 3 utilities. And most recently, the city council raised that this fiscal year to $25. So that $25 can go, those that qualify and can get a $25 reduction on your utility bill, which is, again, the 3 utilities, water, wastewater, and solid waste, not $25 each, but $25 total.
Thank you. One last question is, when is the rates going to be implemented if approved?
So if council approves at the March 19th, 2024 public hearing, rates will go in effect July 1st, 2024. And the schedule for how the rates are projected, which is Riftalis did a 5-year projection, which is recommended. Each fiscal year, the rates go up, and all that again is on the cost of service study, as well as your Prop 218 notice that was mailed to all of the property owners and customers.
And the last thing I want to say, thank you, everyone, because you did a great job on the last presentation beforehand, so.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, is there anybody else that has any questions? Dave?
Eric, I have a question. You mentioned that we had a current corrective plan in effect. What is being corrected and by who?
Yes, so we have a corrective action plan. I look back at my staff because I know but to the staff that's here, if I miss anything, please come up and correct me, but.
So we'll just I think Sarah's chomping at the bit over
Come
there
on
to
up, Sarah.
talk. But that's a great question. It really is, and we're one of many other cities that are on this corrective action plan for SB 1383, but.
I'm just going to give you a quick, brief overview. So when the good faith effort left, like Eric was saying, and then the mandate came in, anyone who had been struggling in the past and wasn't meeting those numbers, they decided to hone in on them and say, okay, you guys were a little bit behind before. We're going to capture you right now that we can. And so basically what they're looking at is how much organic recycling and then regular recycling service that we have on the street. So we still have commercial businesses that need to add organic service and recycling, as well as there's a little bit of residential that's just getting wrapped up now that still needs that organic. So that's the main thing that we're trying to tackle as far as an overall. We have completed most of the steps already. And then there's just a few really remaining ones that are large, but we're working towards that. And we really need our residents and our communities, businesses to help and get on board and accept that they do have to have those services because of the fact that it's state mandated.
Thank you. And then I have another question about, similar to that. With this corrective action, I know in my neighborhood, we have some people that use all 3 of the bins for everything. So is the city going to be doing something about spot checks or?
Yes, and I don't know if she mentioned that Cal Recycle is the state agency that put us on the corrective action plan. But part of that plan, as well as any other agency that provides solid waste services, do have to spot check. You spot check neighborhoods, commercial, industrial, and I think there's a frequency of, I think we have to do that a couple.
We have to do each route once per year? Once per year. So this would be, you have 3 trucks that are coming. Those are 3 routes, once per year. And the city is done in a total of 8 or 9 routes. So this is 9 times, it's 27 checks a year, that we would do. And I will say that we are investing, we do have cameras on the equipment. And so as the material's being lifted, we can see what goes in the hopper, and there's another way to identify contamination there. So, yeah.
So Chair Ibbett, we're also doing, we're working on education as well. So we have stickers when there are contaminated or overfilled. So we have those education outreach measures that are also in place now. So to educate some of our customers.
That was my next question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else that has any questions? Anybody online? No? Okay. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I need to thank Sarah because she did an amazing presentation for me. I went there, she walked me through the whole facility and showed me everything. Took time to do it. And it was amazing.
Thank you.
She's going to be at our neighborhood, so thanks.
All right. Let's move on to Ventura County Workforce Development Board, that the general membership receive receive a, where's it go? Presentation from Peggy, is it Jaques?
Hawkes? I know.
Jaques, sorry, I
Hawkes.
apologize.
It's okay, it's okay. I've been called Jack, I've been
excuse-
called Jock Star,
Yeah, I
you
have to
know.
read this. Business Solutions Specialist with the Workforce Development Board of Ventura County, followed by question and answer. Okay, thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Peggy.
thank you for the invite. I'm really excited to be here, and I have a lot of information that's going to make you all happy. So I'm so excited.
Okay.
So we're going to pull up some information about all our services division. I'm with the County of Ventura Workforce Development Board. I'm a business solutions specialist. We've grown, the department has grown, so I've only been there for a month, since January, but I've been with the County of Ventura for over 15 years. And we've had these services for the 15 years that I've been there. In addition to that, these services that we have been provided since the 70s, what we're gonna go over. The executive, we have executive, our executive committee, we have meetings. Rebecca Evans is our director, and we can provide additional information at a later date. I don't want to give too much information since I'm not going to say new, but I want to make sure that everybody's aware that I'm getting a lot of information. But I do know a lot of what's going on within the Workforce Development Board. We're going to be changing this page, and we have 4 of us now on this page. Cynthia Avila is one of them, and Colleen Smith is the other, the Business Solutions Specialist, which now we have 4, which includes me. And what we do, we represent the Ventura County, each city, and we go out and we make sure that we provide services. And as you can see on this table, we have a lot of flyers that you can be able to look over and review. Too many to review at this time, but I will go over as much as I can. Our business solution is to help people find jobs, help the community, help the employers find good employees, help to see if the labor market is going to be where we need to be, see what skills are going to be needed for these positions, go out and meet these employers, go out and meet candidates, job seekers, what is needed, what is their barriers, what are we going to need for them to be able to do this job, and what are the new jobs that are coming. We know that, you know, it's been changing since COVID, and a lot of people are working from home, and there's still a backlog of individuals that don't know how to do computer, or even how to use their cell phone to. And all employers, they pretty much recommend that you go online, and a lot of people don't even know how to read, and we're trying to help out, and you'll see through our programs that we're assisting those individuals. We have a virtual hiring board, which means an employer could go on the virtual, say what positions they have. They can get anybody can put their resumes on there, and they can have what their job openings are available. For example, I'm having one in the end of this month for Sage Business Services. They're an agency here in Ventura County, and they're going to be doing some hiring. So what they do, the platform, is that they can go online, and individuals can go and see what the job descriptions are about, and what the company is all about, and what other needs are needed for those that, well, let me see, how can I get into that job? What skills am I going to need? Do I need to go to a vocational school, or is the colleges that are going to help? And that's what we're working on right now, is helping with the colleges and with the schools. We have our HR hotline. We work with a lot of employers. They have questions about the laws, HR. I do have a background in human resources, but it's been over 15 years. But every year they're changing, and each city, each state, each position, so we don't know. But we do have specialists that are online that can assist you. If they can't assist you, they'll refer you to somebody that can. Webinars. We have webinars where you can go in, and we have training, and we have the flyers out here, what type of training, in service or computer training, or just any type of training that you would like. We also started a VR, virtual reality, which I just learned. I didn't know what that was, but my granddaughter saw it and said, Grandma, I got one of those for Christmas. And I said, okay. So I tried it on, and it's really exciting where the individuals, and we're going to students, where they can virtually see what type of occupations they want to do. Like for if they want to go into medical, it shows an operating room where someone's having knee surgery and the blood spurting, and so they're manually touching it. It's really, really exciting. I was really happy to learn how to do that. Rapid response. Rapid response is something that we do for a company, for example, they're closing, and we hope that we can work with them prior to closing down. We have closures, like for example, 2008, we had all these companies leave Ventura County. We had rapid response all the time. If a company would like our services, what we do is we put together a group of people that are in the county. For example, EDD will go out there to let them know about their unemployment. We will have our services out there and let them know that there's job training, on-the-job training, classroom training, all the services that are available for us. We also have investment individuals there to, if they need to work on their investments that they have with the company, 401ks and whatnot, because the company is closing. We have our youth program. I think the youth program is one of the most important aspects of the program, because we need to capture them when they're younger. We have a lot of services, and a lot of the colleges and the schools we're all getting together where we're teaming up and providing other outside sources. So if the workforce development will oversee all the different types of services that are available, like Goodwill might have a service, another services will be available. We also have other services that if we can go on to our location, where is in Oxnard, and I'll give you that information too, where they can use our computers, they can use our telephone. We do job fairs there. It's one-stop location. I don't know if you heard American Job and Career Centers. They're throughout United States. Every state and every county has these available where you can walk in. They have veteran services. They have all the services that anybody may need for employers and for those seeking employment. On-the-job training, that's for the last 15 years, I've been working on that project where we go and an individual comes in and said, I lost my job. Do they need to go to on-the-job training? They want to need to work right away. They can't go to school. They need to find a job right away. They go on their interview and they don't get the job, and the employer says, I wish I could hire you. I want to hire you. So we do have services, and we go out and talk to these employers and let them know, guess what, if you hire this individual, we'll pay up to 50% and even up to 70 to 90% of their wages back for them to learn on the job. Nothing has to be repaid, nothing. If they need special tools, if they need a certificate for that position, we will pay for that. There's qualifications for them to be enrolled. Income worker also is a company has these employees, and say they get new equipment, or they have an employee there that a couple of employees and they have new equipment, and so they need to learn. So we can pay some of the wages back to them also. So that's a really good one where they're already employed, and we have career path where if somebody is working and they are administrative assistant, now they're going to be office manager, they get a 20% increase. We can do on-the-job training for that individual to get 50% their wages to the employer. Work experience, of course, we're working with the colleges and the local businesses where they can have somebody working and get the experience. I just had an experience with Port Hueneme where they have these programs where the students can start working out there, student aides, or even work at the county. So that's what we're trying to do, and make sure that they get a start in some of these professional positions that are coming up. The work opportunity tax credit, that is for an employer. So if they hire certain types of backgrounds that they may need, low income, someone with a felony background, or any individuals, we have a service that provides that also. Homeless hiring, we also have tax credits for them, for employers. Like I mentioned, we focus on the employer and the job seeker. So we're kind of like in the middle. What do you need, employer? What skills are you going to need to fill that position? Job seeker, what type of skills, what's your soft skills, and what kind of work do you want to do? We have all these services available. And that's pretty much, there's so many things available, and I wish I could go on, but if you have any questions about our services, like I mentioned, we have our youth program, we have our second chance program. We give individuals that may have a background, we give them an opportunity. There's grants available for them to get their background expunged. We also, if somebody needs to find a job, if they don't have interviewing clothes, we can pay for that. If we need, say they're not able to pay some of their bills, we do have some funds where we can pay their cell phone bill or maybe pay their car insurance. There's so many different services, but it's all based on individual people. Not everybody's the same, so we can't say, okay, well, you need this and I need that. So individually, and we work with each person and with each employer to see exactly what their needs are. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you. I'm going to open it up to the floor first. Is there any questions for Peggy?
Yes.
The floor,
have to
wait,
start-
excuse me, he's starting. I opened the floor
Chris
first.
Bissonette again from Blackstock South.
Oh,
Just
Blackstock, I went
real-
to Blackstock.
Just real quick, was the job programs, job fairs at the high school and college level? Because if they're not collaborating what that training is that you're sending these people to for the new technology, it's not really doing well. So how are you requesting the updates for the curriculum?
Well, we have, we're working with the colleges and with the schools. We're putting it together, and we collaborate together to see what are the needs and what is the labor market. And depending on what other services are available, we send them out. Like Goodwill might have the services. Another agency might have the services. So we all see what services are going to be the best fit for the services
So
that
part
are
of this
needed.
youth program, are you practicing them how to do resumes? And how to
Yes,
do all the other
everything,
different things?
everything that they need to be successful on
How
a
often
job.
do you go to the schools to advertise this?
Like I mentioned, I've been here only a month, but I do know for sure we are out there door to door. I know as of this year that we're really going out to these individual schools and really hammering the doors and making sure that we're out there. And I have my business card. You can send me an email. You can, behind my business card is our website. I invite you to go and visit our website. We have an employer site. We have a job seeker site, and it'll give you all the information. And everything does not cost a cent.
And I agree with what you're saying, but you could build it and they're not coming. So the biggest thing is, how do you get that information down to those individual troops, the teachers and so forth that are out there?
We individually go out with our service providers and individually have meetings and job fairs, service fairs also. So what we do, we go out there and we have service providers that will have all this information.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else out on the floor that has a question? How about online? Okay, go ahead.
On your youth, it starts at 14?
16 to 26.
Okay, somebody like in high school and.
Yes, in high school. Yes,
All right.
must have been true. And like I mentioned, we have all these different flyers that we have, and the workforce development overseas, so we might refer them to another agency. So I would like for you, like I mentioned, we have all the youth programs, the second chance program, skills where you can go onto the computer, you can use a computer and even get an IT certifications. All they're available, and of course, for the labor market, we need to see what type of skills individuals need.
Do you have any more questions? How about you? Do you have any? Dave?
This reminds me of the program from back in the 70s and early 80s called CETA. And I have some very close friends that were very successful in that, that have traveled all over the world because of jobs that they learned starting at an early age in school.
Well, let me tell you something. I did that. I was in CETA program, Comprehensive Employment and Training Act. I was a dislocated worker. I was a single parent. I had an 8-month-old and I had a 3-year-old. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't talk to my family. They wanted me to stay with my abusive husband, that he would change. And I made up my mind that I was going to protect my children and do something for them. I was this little shy little girl. Nobody believes me. I had to learn to talk. I had to motivate myself. I had to say, I'm worth something, and the past can't hurt me no more. He's gone. I mean, unfortunately, with the drugs and everything else, he passed away. My daughters, ended up not having a father. I had to support my children on my own. I couldn't go to a university. I had to go to school. But my first job after getting the training, doing on-the-job training and classroom training, go to college, I ended up getting my first job in personnel, which is HR. Over 35 years, I did that. The highest position I ever had was a director. Unfortunately, I lived in Oxnard and there were some troubles going on. I had a son that was going to go to high school. I took him out of Oxnard and we went to a little town called Hemet, California. I don't know if you heard about California. My son hated me, but at least I knew where he was at. And so we stayed there for 8 years. We came back. Unfortunately, when we did come back, that's when everything fell. 2008. I couldn't find a job. I couldn't believe that there was no HR jobs. Supervisors and managers were doing the HR. They weren't hiring. Nobody wanted to go back to work. So I was lucky enough to get a part-time job, extra help with the County of Ventura. And I was paid with the County of Ventura, and they loaned me out to the state of California to help those individuals find jobs. And because the companies went out of the country, they were called Trade Adjustment Act, which they got more money. They were able to stay in unemployment longer. It was very, very hard to get people back to work. Fortunately enough, I was hired full-time, and I was able to do this job. And to me, it was like HR. I get the information for them to be enrolled, got them enrolled. I saw during that time, what the account executives did, and I said, I want to do that. I know how to work with employers, and I know what it feels like to be laid off. I want that job. And because of my motivation and my skills and keep learning and wanting to learn, I was able to do that. So I could say that these programs work. And if anybody can say that they don't, they need to talk to me. I'm a homeowner. I'm a single, parent. I mean, my kids are already big, but at 60 years old, I was able to buy my house with my son, my 36-year-old. He came back. He's very successful, works at Amgen. So what can I say? These programs work.
One of the key words that you mentioned, though, is that they have to have that desire.
Yes, it's scary, and that's the scary part is we don't know what's behind individuals. Nobody knew that I was being beaten. I couldn't tell nobody. I couldn't tell my family. I didn't know where to go. The one that helped me the most was somebody that was going through the same thing. And as we go to these different agencies, we try to get groups of people that are going through the same thing and letting them know that there's a safe haven for them.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, we're going to go to online. It looks like Deborah Arvalo is up first. So Deborah?
Yes, Deborah Arvalo, South Bank Chair. I've been listening, and I did have some of the same questions that some people asked, but to further ask in regards to students. As an educator for 40 years, it's really important, especially those seniors, juniors and seniors, to get out there. And I did hear that you said that it's outreach for you, but do you have a designated time? I'm thinking personally for me, right after the spring when high school students are looking for jobs starting possibly in May and June, do you do job fairs at the school after you have all the information that you have to possibly help students? Because I know that one person stated that it's hard to get somebody out there that doesn't know about it. But if you go to them, it may make a difference. So as an educator, I'm thinking of those students who may not have the wherewithal to attend a meeting that they didn't even know because they might not have the resources to either drive there, get online, or whatever. So my question to you is, do you go to the high schools in our areas, and how does that work?
Yes, most definitely. For example, if I speak to somebody, Channel Islands, I spoke to somebody from Channel Islands High School. They asked me to go out there and speak also about our programs. The schools reach out to us, and we go and make these appointments, see what is the right fit. Since we've grown, since the Workforce Development Board has grown, we have more staff to be able to go out there. We have more resources. We're on, we have different platforms where anybody can look up our information. And we send out groups, of individuals or even to employers or even to the schools, mainly to the schools and to the colleges, and giving them opportunities so if they can either get some credit going to school, going to school and getting a job and get that extra credit and maybe graduating sooner. But yes, most definitely, we're definitely going out to the schools, to the colleges. That's what we're doing now. That's what I've been doing. I'm going to Mopar College. On next week to do a job fair. So yes, we're always out there. You just need to contact us, and we'll be available to assist you.
Okay, I'm saying this incorrectly. I'm thinking that possibly, you said you had a lot of pamphlets, information. If you could just, now that you have more resources, go to Channel Islands, go to Santa Clara High School, go to Oxnard High School, Rio Mesa, and actually just drop that off to all the front office for the counselors to assist those kids who are juniors and seniors. And then they can, some people may not know about your program. And that's why I'm thinking that maybe having more information go out will assist you. And then you would have more people actually actively getting involved in it. Most
Definitely, and that is what we're doing right now. I've gone to Oxnard College, I've gone to Channel Islands, I've gone to even lowriders and different around the city and the county where individuals are. We're going to where the people are at and the schools are at. We're trying to get them all involved. We're even having where we do virtual realities, where we go to the school and let the students look at this virtual reality to see what type of occupation that they may want to get into. They're able to use it. They can see if they want to be into the medical. They can see, an operation. They can see if they want to install or to be in manufacturing, and they do it virtually. We keep up with technology, and we want to be there, and we want to work with the students. And I think we're working with everybody, and everybody is our top priority.
Okay, is that all, Deborah?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I have a couple questions. First is, before I retired, I used to work with the County of Ventura. I don't remember the department. How old is this program? You may have said it, I may have missed it, but.
Well, I think these programs, well, for me, like I said, it started with a CETA, but they had
But
outside
it's not CETA
sources.
anymore.
It's workforce integration. The county had it, I believe, for 19 years, but it was sourced out. For example, we had a program. We were funded by the WIOA Workforce Development. I was working as an account executive, doing the on-the-job training.
So it was handled by somebody else, but now it's brought back in-house?
Yeah, no, it was in-house, and now they outsourced our department.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
right,
They outsourced our department, and we're now overseeing all the different
Got it.
departments.
All right. And then some of us, we put on events like Saturday Night Out and stuff like that. We do some events for our neighborhoods and stuff like that in our parks. Is that something that you guys would do, is come out and put out a table or something, an information table? Would that be something that you would consider?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay.
We do that a lot.
All right. All right, that's it for me. Is there anybody else? No? Anybody up here? No? Okay.
I can stay around, and if anybody has any questions about the flyers or anything, I'll be here.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much. Okay, item number 3 under new business. Subject is Quimby funds. It was supposed to be general, but that the general membership and the INCO Parks Subcommittee have an open discussion on Quimby funds. And Isaac, you want to come up and I know Dave's here from Parks. Is there anybody else from the Parks? Isaac?
I think it's just us here tonight.
Okay, all right. You come on up so we can have this open, free discussion.
Sure, should we just have a discussion then? Or do we need somebody to speak?
Well, why don't you start with some of your questions or concerns, and maybe we can,
Sure, yeah, so I'm Isaac Olive, I'm from CBO
Hi,
Estates.
Isaac, can you go to
Come on
the
up.
mic?
It's not really,
you can come up there or there, I don't care.
okay, sure. Feels more like I'm speaking at you than discussing with you, but. Okay. Okay, yeah, no problem. So I'm Isaac Coliff. I'm from Seaview Estates neighborhood. Quimby Funds is one of the things that was put on our radar and why I kind of got involved with the neighborhood council system. We have like $2.2 million of the city's $10 million overall Quimby Fund balance. And in addition to having such a large balance, ours is very old. It's 15 years old, has just been sitting around not collecting too much interest, just sitting around, not being utilized. So advocating for our neighborhood to get that money used, and also trying to find a way forward so that the other monies in the city can be used as well, has been kind of one of our first goals is a kind of a new neighborhood council. So I really appreciate you guys putting this on the agenda and having an open conversation. I'm wondering if anybody else knows if they have Quimby funds or has any process.
We bring a list of what, I know there's like, 20 neighborhoods with,
Yeah, we have.
I know that we have some, she has some.
We have a ton.
Is there anybody else here with Quimby funds? No?
Right here.
Right there. Okay.
So everybody's has them.
Not everybody, just some. There's about 20 parks, if I'm not mistaken. Roger would know more. There is about 20-some parks with Quimby funds. Come on, get up and join the chat. Yeah, you got the list.
Hi, folks. I'm Roger Poirier, Hobson Park East. I was on the Parks and Rec Commission for 8 years, and I did a very deep dive into Quimby funds. It's a rather steep learning curve. Does everybody know what Quimby funds are? So whenever development goes in a neighborhood, the developer is required, there's a state law called the Quimby Act, and the developer is required to pay impact fees because, you know, as new people come in, there's going to be more people using schools, streets, and parks. So they pay these impact fees. One of those is for development of either new parks or improvement of parks. In Oxnard, we have a local Quimby ordinance, which is a little bit more restrictive than most cities have. For instance, we have Assistant Public Works Director Steve Howlett here tonight, who came from La Quinta, where they have a Quimby ordinance that allows cities to use Quimby funds to replace equipment in parks. Oxnard's ordinance does not allow Quimby funds to be used to replace equipment in parks. And that is the reason Seaview Estates' 2.2 millions has not been touched since 2005 when it was generated. So let me say a little bit more about Quimby funds. Quimby funds don't belong to a neighborhood. All funds in the city are controlled by the city council. But Quimby funds are intended to be used in those neighborhoods where they're generated. That's the purpose of the law. And if the city council can decide to pull those funds out of that neighborhood and use them in a neighboring neighborhood or some other nearby community park where there's a need. But right now, all of our Quimby funds in Oxnard is about $10 million total. They're intended for either creating new parks or improving parks. Angela Wycombe, who's the chair of the Parks and Rec Commission, and I just met with Steve Howlett and the city manager and the public works director about how to activate Quimby funds more quickly. The city attorney's office is currently looking at reinterpreting the current ordinance so that the city can access those funds to be used more readily to, for instance, replace a restroom. They can't be used for maintenance, can't be used to replace a toilet, but they're getting to the point where they're thinking they would be able to replace a restroom. So that's kind of, that's the direction where we're going. The city staff is already kind of thinking about this. It's the worst thing about what's happened with our Quimby funds is that they're losing buying power every year. Hobbs Park East has $420,000 in Quimby funds, which was generated when the Press Courier building was put up, and that buying power has gone way down since, I mean, to some degree. So things are looking up for Quimby funds, and in terms of getting use of those funds into the current parks. So what you wanted to know, which neighborhoods have Quimby funds? I can tell you.
Yeah,
All right. Currently,
he's given it to us before, I think, but
Cabrillo has 144,000. Carriage Square has 424,000. Cypress has 40,000. Let's see here. East Village Park has 701,000.
Cypress has how much, did you say?
East Village?
Cypress.
Cypress has
40, I think you said.
has 40,000. And now here's something interesting. In Cypress, there's a project coming with 210 units. So I estimated that they could be looking at getting another 768,000 in Quimby funds into the Cypress neighborhood, which could benefit Garden City Park, for instance. That's kind of
Okay, now I do have a problem with your idea of just mishing and mashing the monies. You're not saying for Cypress, you're saying for somebody else? Use their money for somebody else? Is that what you're saying?
So Cypress is about to have a new development.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so if my calculations are correct, I'm estimating $4,000 per unit, then that should generate another 768,000 in the Cypress Quimby balance.
Got it, okay.
Now, their park, Garden City Park, is fairly well built out. So what they could, for instance, use this funding to replace their restroom, or maybe improve their playground, stuff like that.
Or they could add things to it that they
They could
would
add
want.
new features, new facilities, new features into the park.
Can I interrupt you a minute? Because I want to
Absolutely.
ask Steve a question. Steve, oh, shoot. Oh, no. Maybe I should just let you go because I completely wiped it out. Go ahead. Go ahead. I can't remember what I was going to say.
Did anybody have any, I mean, this should be more of a dialogue.
I think, Steve, that's what I was going to ask. Do apartment buildings that come in, whether they're co-ops or whatever, do they actually generate money for Quimby funds? Because if so, I want to know what happened to our additional money that we should have gotten. There was a.
Orchard Park has 216,000.
Yeah, I know, but we've had that for years before the apartment complex on Camino Gonzalez Apartments came in. But they are a co-op, so it may be a difference. It didn't generate any new funds for us.
When did it go in?
Oh, geez, I'd have to look it up. But it was, we've had that money since the 90s or something like that, so.
The 90s?
Yeah, we've had that money since the 90s.
When was your new development?
Huh?
When was your new development?
That's what I'm saying, I don't recall, but it came in well after the 90s. It was, maybe mid-2000s. 2005, they did a lot of building everywhere. So does certain types of apartments, that's my question, does certain types of apartments create new funds?
Good evening, Chair and Vice Chairs. My answer is I don't know. That is That is not part of Public Works' purview, so that
Okay.
would be part of the original land development. So I do not know, that would be a community development question. And so that is something that staff can research and get that answer
Okay.
back to you.
And then before you leave, and I'm going to keep him up here just a second, and you can come back, I just didn't want to, Orchard Park has a few ideas, but we haven't sat together and said what we want to do. But even before I do that, what should I be thinking about? I mean, we have a limited amount of money, but, we could probably do something with it. And if it goes over a little bit, what are the steps I should take? What's my very first step? Say, hey, look, we've decided that we want to do this, or do we have to come to you before we say, before we decide on what we want to do?
Chair, what we've been doing is letting the neighborhood councils provide us with the feedback as we move into the budget and the CIP season. Isaac from Seaview, he already provided his recommendations based on their city council, not city council, I'm sorry, their neighborhood council meeting.
okay.
I'm sorry, it's getting late.
Hey, yeah,
I've been
I'm
up
so
since
sorry.
5 with that fire, so. Anyway, so it's the recommendation of the city council. So I would recommend the neighborhood council. I would recommend that the neighborhood councils get together and based on the list that Roger is sharing with you, that you meet with the community, the residents of your neighborhood and discuss the funds that are available and what you would like to do. And if you'd like to have staff attend to help out, but we're very limited on our ability right now.
Yeah, I think what we should do, Roger, is have somebody like you send out to each chair. Now, Cypress, I'm meeting with somebody to see if we can't get them activated. So that's one of the problems with Cypress.
So there's no active chair in Cyprus right now?
Right, no, I'm meeting with somebody. So I will bring that piece of paper and say, hey, you've got money, and I will talk to them about that, and we'll see if we can't get them going. But maybe we should send out and say, hey, look, these funds are here, you need to consider spending it somewhere, or maybe giving it up to somebody else who needs the money,
So that's something that this discussion should dig into a little bit, is the process of how do you generate ideas within the neighborhood about how to access the funds. But a larger question for Public Works and city management is, how do we take neighborhood input in, and then how do we actually execute on those desires? This is very important because Public Works Department does everything, that keeps us safe from each other in Oxnard. Parks are kind of down here on their priority list. So safety issues are at the top, keeping the trash picked up and the water clean, that comes, and see, the people who execute these park improvements, they're called project managers. They're under the city engineer's office. And we've had a lot of turnover in that department, and I don't know if they're fully staffed up. They're usually not. Oxnard used to have a project manager whose priorities were parks. He left some years ago, and they have not seen fit to put a parks, focused project manager back into service. That was a request from Angela and me that Public Works and the city engineer's office find a project manager that will focus primarily on parks and do other things necessary, because otherwise we're just gonna, our parks are just gonna kind of not move forward the way they should. So that's something that we should all be advocating for, is to get staffing that can actually do the work.
Well, all right, let's, all right, but right now is what we need to know is, so, all right, our neighborhood gets together, we say, oh, we want a canopy or something, or a dance floor or whatever. I can't think of anything right now, but, so we come to you and then do what? what do we have to fill out a piece of paper? Is there a form? And then, if we need, grant money or anything like that, who do we work with? Do we have to work on our own with that kind of stuff?
Chair, you covered a lot of ground there, so
Sorry.
let me just first address the how a project gets presented to Public Works. So for clarification, again, as was stated before, this isn't really the neighborhood's money, just per the city code. The intent of the funds is to be used in the neighborhood that was generated. It is ultimately the city council that makes the decision.
Right.
Your job as the neighborhood councils is to provide your recommendations, and your recommendations would come through the Public Works Department, and it would be included in the CIP process. So in the meeting that Roger mentioned earlier before, we had a follow-up meeting of how do we get these neighborhoods together to discuss using the Quimby funds. And so Roger sent over his recommendations. We put together a list, and what the city engineer and I are going to be doing is reaching out to the various neighborhood chairs to see if we can get, instead of us going to all, 24 neighborhood councils individually, which we do not have the time to do. We've combined areas so we can meet with 5 neighborhood councils at the same time and discuss each one of the funds that are available and what they would like to see.
How many areas are there?
5.
5, and what is the northern part of Oxnard neighborhoods? What number are they? 1, 4, 2?
Oh,
5?
it's not really,
Set up yet.
really numbered. It's just grouped together, and if we could do all 5 in 1 week, we will. I mean,
Well,
that's,
Yeah.
I feel like this is the meeting where they should be here.
Well,
so
they're
we can
not though,
discuss
but,
it. So we need to make that.
but a couple people online wants to hear the rest of the list before you get to talk. Roger, a couple people want the rest of the list read off.
I know, me too.
It's a long
Sorry.
list. I'll tell you what, I'll email this list to all the chairs. How's that? Because it's, I mean, some neighborhoods have $1,000, some neighborhoods have $2 million. One neighborhood has $2 million, but other neighborhoods have $1 million. So it's, I'll email everybody. Now, I did recommend, they want the list. Okay.
You started it, so now they want to.
All right, let's see here. Okay, Bryce Canyon South has $4,933. I've already been through Cabrillo, Carriage Square, Cypress, East Village Park. They've got a lot of development coming. They could really end up with a huge Quimby balance. El Rio West has $309,000. 5 Points neighborhood has 1.3 million, and I imagine they also could have a lot of development in 5 Points that would expand their Quimby balance. Fremont South has $98,820.
800 what? $20?
Sorry, what did I say? Fremont South. Oh no, they should be getting 98,000. Sorry. Colonia has 113,000. About $500,000 was spent in Colonia, but I'm not sure what it was for, because last year, on 2022, their Quimby balance was 652,000. So I'm not sure how that was spent, Ramon.
Yeah, they haven't done nothing.
I don't know where, that's the thing. Nobody tells us how they're spending Quimby
Yeah,
funds.
we didn't get no.
I'm sure we can get the records, so.
Well, I hope so.
We can get the records.
Mar Vista has 523,000. And last year they had 898,000. So their balance went down as well, some $300,000, and they don't have a park in Mar Vista, so I don't know how those funds were used. There's another question. Marina West has 131,000. Orchard Park has 216,000.
216?
Yeah, it went up from 195. I guess you're picking up the
It
interest.
was, I thought it was, okay.
Oxnard Dunes has
Very nice.
680,000. And you get a car, and you get a car. And you get, Oxnard Shores has 94,000. There's a neighborhood called Pacific Avenue Commercial. It's on Channel Islands Boulevard. It's not really a neighborhood, but they have 357,000.
Wait, what is the name of it?
They have 357.
The name.
The name is Pacific Avenue Commercial. This fund was generated from the Channel Islands Apartments, which is at Channel Islands Boulevard at Statham.
Is this a new neighborhood, Adam?
No, it's just, I don't think it's associated with any actual neighborhood. It's called Pacific Avenue Commercial. I'm not even sure what district it's in.
Yeah.
Rio Lindo has
Unless it's-
159,000.
Rio Lindo has how much?
159,000. Seaview Estates has 2.2 million. South Bank has 55,000. South Winds has 162,000. Via Marina has 1.5 million. Wilson has 747,000, and Windsor North has 36,000.
Wagon Wheel doesn't have any?
Sorry?
Wagon Wheel does not have any yet?
No. And Wagon Wheel, they built a park for that neighborhood.
Right.
So that totals about $10 million. That's currently in the balance, and it's been around 8 to 10 million for as long as I've lived in Oxnard, so for 10 years. And there's another, if you look at all the developments that are on the books in the planning department, there's another $10 million of Quimby funds that are going to be added to this balance. And so it's critical that the city figure out how to access these funds in a timely manner. That's really important. So that's the recommendation that should come out of the committee that goes to ultimately the city council, that they really need to prioritize improving parks and utilizing the Quimby funds.
Okay, but it'd be nice if we could have a streamline, because like I know that we want to use the funds, and I mean, we can sit down and talk with the other 5 neighborhoods, but since I already know that we want to use the funds, it'd be nice, Kim wants to talk to you before.
Just to your point, Chair, so right now, okay, how do you access Quimby funds? Len Schulman of Carriage Square is the only chair that I'm aware of who's actually initiated a Quimby project in his park, which is Eastwood Park. He just talked to the parks facilities guy that we had on staff, Michael Henderson, and Michael put it through the proper channels, and they got lighting, brand new lighting in Eastwood Park. Typically, the city generates or initiates these projects. They have developed plans for Seaview Estates and Via Marina, which their process is, they'll come up with the ideas, they'll put them in something called the Capital Improvement Project List. That's what Steve was saying, CIP. That's what that means. It's a 5-year list of all infrastructure improvements that is planned by Public Works.
Even though it's Quimby funds?
So, yeah, Quimby funds are infrastructure improvements, so
Well, I mean, I get that.
they have
but
to be
But why do
listed.
they have to wait 5 years?
No, it's a plan for the next 5 years.
Got it.
And
All
so
right.
they prioritize them, based on what's going to keep us from killing each other, or how, so water and sewers tend to be at the top of the list, then streets, buildings falling down. Those things all get prioritized real high. Parks are generally, they
So
don't.
it's not necessarily that we're not using our funds, is we couldn't get to it for 5 years anyways because everybody has priority over us? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's 2 things. One is the current ordinance doesn't allow us to just replace stuff. It has to be new. And that's hard to do in a park like Seaview Park. It's hard to put anything new in there, right? So they've just figured out how to replace stuff. So they're getting a new restroom, they're getting a new playground. So hooray for Seaview.
Okay, let's, before you, we'll bring you back, Roger, but let me, because we got Rainey online, but I'm going to let Kim, she's been waiting longer to go.
Kim from Fremont South. My question is, I know we don't have a park right now. We're supposed to have a park. We've got millions of dollars in funds to try to bring a park to us called Campus Park. My question is, we have houses going in, 29 houses going in on K Street. Will that bring in, is that the money that you were talking about for Fremont South, $98,000? Excellent. So is that going to go into the campus park funds of $10 million that we have already?
Might sit around for 10 years.
So right now we have $10 million that's been sitting around for 20 years to build the park. So when you say you have to wait 5 years, I'm thinking, woohoo, that's good, because we've been sitting for 20 years trying to wait for our campus park. So, well,
That's a
it
different
is, but no,
question, I
my
was gonna
question
say.
was, does the new housing give us money for Quimby? So that was my question. Okay.
And Rini, you had your hand up. Did you still have a question?
Yeah, so it was mentioned that no one had submitted other than the one neighborhood, but we have not heard anything back. And we were having a really hard time getting answers on what the process was.
Is this
So-
Cabrillo? This is Cabrillo, right?
Correct.
Chair and
So
Vice,
this is,
oops, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Is she done? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Chair and Vice Chair, just to be clear, I was using the Seaview neighborhood as an example. We have had multiple neighborhoods submit their requests. They have been received. They're part of the CIP process. So just because it's been submitted doesn't mean it's been given a green light. So let me finish explaining how the CIP process works. So we currently have a 5-year CIP program. And what's a 5-year CIP program doesn't mean everything on that list is going to be done in 5 years. It means that's our intent. That is now in the 5-year CIP. And then as they keep coming back to City Council to be updated, we'll have other priorities come out of the blue that weren't originally in the 5-year CIP, but they're higher priority because they're public safety. So now they get put into the 5-year CIP. So you can have something in the 5-year CIP for 10 years. And we're thinking that's what happened with the Seaview neighborhood project that was going on is, you know, when they started the project there, it's like, well, why are you doing this? Well, we weren't the ones who put together the plans. The plans were probably done 10 years ago. I don't know how long that was in there. So just because it's in the 5-year CIP doesn't mean it's going to be done in year 1, 2, or even 5. It's just in the 5-year CIP. And what council has to continually juggle is, where are the priorities? What is the most important thing and the resources?
So it's not, okay. So I want to make sure I'm understanding. Usually CIP, though, is stuff that has to be funded, correct? This stuff could already be funded, so why is that put on a backlist? Am I mistaken in my thought here, thought process?
So, Chair, for an example, there can be things in the CIP that are not funded, but they are high priority.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they get done. They don't get done until you get the funding. But if we have a big section of road that needs to be replaced, you know, that's definitely a high priority. We don't have the funding for it, but as soon as we find the funding, now it's at the top of the list to get done. That is a priority. And then there are funded projects that also sit in there as well because, again, higher priorities. So just having the funding is important, but it's always a battle of priorities.
Is it mainly because of the workers and the people that needs to get the work done? I mean, is that part of the problem with the Quimbys?
That has been part of the problem that we've been dealing with in recent years here.
Okay.
Building back the staff, we've had high turnover, so a person can only do so much. As Roger alluded to, we lost a lot of project managers in the engineering division. But yes, it does become a capacity issue, but really the priority is the bigger issue. So to add even further, we have another list in addition to the CIP list, and that's called the American Recovery Act, AR Program Act.
Got it.
Now this is all free money that the government gave us. And I think it's $53 million. Is that what it was? Do you know?
Something.
I'm getting that one's on you, but it's a lot of money.
59.
And that has to be spent before
59.
a certain time, doesn't it?
Exactly. So general fund money, Quimby fund money, it doesn't have a sunset date. Actually, there could be an argument for Quimby, but the ARPA has to be spent. So now we have the 5-year CIP, but then we have all these ARPA projects that if we do not spend that money, it's gone. And it's better that we use the free money before we use the money we have in the bank account. So when we're talking about, hey, we want a sand volleyball court, we'll put that in the CIP. And then we won't put it in the CIP. We'll put it in the list of items for city council to consider for the CIP program. And so they're going to look at the 5-year CIP and say, okay, what are our priorities? And then they're going to look at the ARPA and they're going to say, okay, what are our priorities? And this became, there's a January, I want to say it was I'm trying to remember the city council date where the city manager did a presentation and to the city council where we talk about below the line, and it's the priorities of the ARPA projects and the CIP projects, and where did city council want to draw the line of what is possible and what's not. So we have a lot of projects that are in the CIP that are below the line. One of the items that was below the line was the $7 million grant for the Durley Park renovation. That was below the line. However, we need to get that done because that's also money that needs to
go away. If you,
I'm working with M6 and I'm being the project manager for that one and working with M6 to make sure that project moves forward so we do not lose that money. So any money that has a sunset date, we want to do everything we can to try to utilize it.
And as far as I'm concerned, that should always take priority. We don't want to lose money, free money. Right.
So to answer the question, like I said, I'm working with the city engineer to put together meetings where we can group the neighborhoods together that have Quimby funds. And that way we don't have to go to 25 different. And we considered going to INCO, but INCO represents, 50 neighborhoods? We want to talk to only the ones with Quimby and hear what their recommendations are. And we've already received some recommendations, and those are going to be in the list that goes to city council for consideration in the CIP. That's how it works.
And as far as workers, let me introduce you to Peggy. Does anybody, somebody has their, Rainey, go ahead.
Rainey had a question about her Quimby funds, so.
Yeah, she has a question, yeah. Rainey has a
They have
question.
$160,000, and the previous chair, Doug Portello, he actually held a series of meetings about what to do with this Quimby money, and they voted on a recommendation, and I believe, Rainey, you must have been part of those meetings, right? So you're aware of the design that was recommended by your neighborhood council. I don't know how the city has handled that recommendation.
Go ahead, Rainey.
So my question is, how can we, as chairs then, effectively track what is happening with our request?
Good question for Mr. Howlett.
You're going to get your exercise.
Chair, for clarification, I wasn't planning on talking today. I saw it was on the agenda. And
I know, but you were here, so you got stuck.
The recommendation is the general membership and INCO Parks Subcommittee have a discussion of Quimby funds. That doesn't include staff. So.
You're here. You're in the audience. I think that's okay. Is that okay, Adam? Because he is if it's not okay, then.
I mean, we've already begun.
Yeah, we've kind of crossed that line, but in complete disclosure, I was not prepared to talk.
All right,
on anything, so I'm shooting off the hip.
That's fine.
But
I did.
In response to the question regarding the Cabrillo neighborhood, all I can say is I apologize that staff hasn't followed up. I hope I've been transparent with the Seaview neighborhood and just letting them know the request has been received and it will be in the packet for consideration to city council with the CIP. And so we are assembling that right now.
Okay, thank you. And Rainey, do you know who it was sent into, or do you have that information? Or who's heading the
No.
project?
Not right in front of me, but that's what we were trying to find out through the city, is what the process is. And so no one could tell us what the process was supposed to be. And so now my question is, how can we effectively report back to our community of what's happening?
Chair Vels,
That's all.
question.
I mean, I understand that there's priorities. I get that, but I can't, I would be remiss if I didn't have some way of following up to see where it is.
Chair, Rainey, a question for you. At the meeting where the neighborhood council voted on the recommendation for your park, was anybody there from the city?
No.
So do you know what the previous chair did with that recommendation?
The previous chair didn't do anything with that recommendation.
So I wonder if he brought it to the Parks and Rec Commission.
That's where it was submitted.
Well, I'll follow up for you. How's that?
We submitted it via email.
I'll find out from Doug and from the Parks and Rec Commission.
Doug doesn't have anything to do, sorry. Doug does not have anything to do with it.
Okay. Well, I'll learn what I can.
She submitted it email. Is that what you said, Rainey?
Claire submitted it. It was after Doug was gone. Doug doesn't have anything to do with it.
Okay.
Rainey, you can check the CIP online. It's on, if you just search CIP book Oxnard, you can find that document, and then you can just search for your neighborhood. That's how I found what we had already on the books. I've got my page printed out over there. If it's not in the CIP
That's exactly
book,
what I need to know. Thank you so much.
you need to.
I don't know who that was, but thank you.
It's Isaac. I'm from Seaview. So you need to, if you don't see it in there, you need to get with Steve as soon as possible. I think the deadline's already gone for this go round, which is pretty unfortunate. But you can get your request into him via email. That's what we did for our second one. But if you don't see it in the CIP book, then you're another step back. But if you do, then it's up for discussion with City Council, as I understand it, and
Chair,
you can go and advocate for your project.
If I can give some clarification to that last comment, what Isaac is referring to is what is already on the CIP book. So that park was already in. So when I talked about that the plans were done about 10 years ago and no staff, that's how long that project has been in the CIP. So yes, when you go online and you look up the CIP project, you see it there. Those are not the proposed CIP projects. So for the Cabrillo neighborhood, we did receive it. I do remember seeing it. There were two recommended options. One of them was a walking path, and for the life of me, I can't remember what the other one was. But we did receive it. It is going to be presented as one of the recommendations for the neighborhood council to be included in the CIP. Again, I have to reiterate that just because it has been requested doesn't mean it's going to get into the CIP, because it's always a battle of priorities.
No, I understand that, but that's what I was just asking is, what do I need to do to find out where it is so then I can report back? That's all.
Yes,
That's
so the thing to do is again, we'll be, the city engineer and I will be reaching out to these neighborhoods with Quimby funds to see if we can get a group meeting together, and we'll still invite the neighborhoods that have submitted theirs. But right now, I can say for certain Seaview and Cabrillo have been submitted and received. I can't remember who else, but if anybody does have any questions, they can either contact me directly, Steve Howlett, or Morgan, our city engineer.
Thank you. Morgan, you said?
Morgan Kessler.
Thank you so much, especially since you weren't intending on speaking tonight. Thank you, I appreciate it. Is there anybody else with any comments or questions? How about you, Isaac? Anything further?
Roger.
Good?
Is everybody good? All right. All right, let's move on then. Good discussion. Okay, neighborhood chair reports, item F, neighborhood chair reports. Neighborhood chairs may individually report on items of interest or concern to their neighborhoods. The INCO cannot enter into a detailed discussion or take action on any item presented during these reports.
Sorry, Chair, I did mean to ask one more thing from the last agenda item, if I might. The reason that agenda item was here tonight was because it was a park subcommittee question, right?
Actually, I've already closed that, but.
Yeah, I'm just asking. I beg your indulgence, Sheriff, if I
Let
might.
me go back. I'll close, I won't open this yet. I'm going to go back to item 3.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, was this because it's a standing committee and we haven't determined yet how those should meet?
We had a discussion in the executive board meeting last month. Was it last month? Last month, and Isaac asked that we have an open discussion, and that's why it was set.
So I'm just curious if anybody has given guidance to the INCO about standing committees.
Yes, I've given, and we have given all the leads on the subcommittee as to what we're looking for.
So the question,
Okay, we go, I don't.
well, see, this is the kind of the other half of this agenda item was how should standing committees hold meetings? Okay. So that's what you're doing tonight.
Okay.
You're holding a standing committee meeting here because it's covered by the Brown Act. So what guidance can be given to the existing standing committees for how they should meet?
Okay, we've already had a discussion with the chair of that subcommittee, and they can discuss it with you, or I can discuss it with you at a later date, but right now, that's not even the subject. So we're talking about Quimby funds, so we can't really be discussing what you want, okay?
All right.
But it has been taken care of, that's all I'll say, all right? I mean, we have talked to people as to how they can meet, okay?
Okay.
All right.
All right. So Hobson Park East, Roger Poirier.
Okay, I haven't opened it up yet
Okay.
because I closed it.
All right.
So I am going to now reopen item F, neighborhood chair reports. Go ahead, Roger.
All right. So I'm curious, is there anybody here from District 4? Anybody else? No? Okay. We're going to have a District 4 meeting on March 21st at the Senior Center in order to hear from the chief of the fire department on infrastructure issues with the fire department. So I brought a bunch of flyers for the other chairs tonight, but they didn't show up. In our park, Lions Park, the playground is progressing nicely. They should be pouring the rubber surface soon, and then we'll be able to open the playground up. There will be a park festival on Earth Day, April 20th in Lions Park to celebrate kind of the reopening, the rebirth of this park and to celebrate Earth Day. I think, and then we have our neighborhood cleanup coming up March 23rd. That's it for us. Thanks.
Thank you, Roger.
Hi again, Isaac from Seaview Estates. Just one quick update. We are having our neighborhood bulky item pickup on March 16th as well, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you guys missed your neighborhood one, come on by ours. Thanks.
Thank you, Isaac.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm new, so I'm the new chair of the Rio Lindo Park. And thank you.
What was your name?
So we have a new board.
What was your name? I'm sorry.
Oh, Sandy Diaz.
Okay, thank you, Sandy.
So as of February 15th, we have a new board. And thinking in my head, I want to schedule a meeting in May. And also we have the bulky or the drop-off day, June the 1st. So,
right.
thank you. It's good.
Thank you
good to
very
be
much,
here.
and
Thank you.
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Chris Bissonette, Blackstock South, a couple of things that we've got to report on was speed humps will be going in at the end of spring. We've got 18 stop signs that we're missing forever and a day. We're getting those installed within 4 weeks. Some of the other things we're looking at is, as we were knocking on the doors to get the speed humps, there was a lot of houses that didn't have any numbers. So we took the initiative to start painting every one of the curbs. There's about 300 of the 520 houses already been painted up. The goal is to try to have it done before mid-April. That was all done by donations throughout the neighborhood. The 311 apps is working great on a lot of things, not only just for the graffiti and the abandoned vehicles, but one of my biggest concerns are there is an extensive amount of vehicles driving around with cars that are not registered or the stickers are not on there. That kind of indicates, and this is a repeat, but no license, no insurance, and all these other different things that come into play. So I've been using that 311 app anytime I see a parked vehicle with expired tags. So just kind of a heads up on that. Now that the rain's coming through, we've got a lot of flooding in Yucca. It doesn't happen when it's sunny out, so everybody forgets about it. So we've been kind of fighting that issue right there, as well as the street lighting that's in Bard Road, not just for our neighborhood, but the entire street. And the reason being, you've got emergency services going through there, you got bike lanes, you've got schools, a lot of things that are be a safety issue that comes into play. I've got a meeting with tomorrow, phone con with the designer that's down in Los Angeles. I was deferred over from city management to go directly to this individual to start talking about the requirements. Another thing that's kind of low on our priority list is all the street signs with the heavy winds and so forth. A lot of them got busted out, so I'm going to just put a list together instead of doing one at a time on 311 app, just so that way they can work on it when they can. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chris. Next.
Hi, good night. My name is Teresa Salazar. I represent Dakar Hilsler. February 12 had the election, and the council member Valenzuela who was attendance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kim?
Hi, Kim from Fremont South, and I'm here to say that we're having a meeting on Monday, March 11th. It's going to be held at the old high school for Fire Station 1's classroom, 451 South K Street at 6 o'clock. Also, we're having bulky item drop-off, and we're sharing it with Wilson and with Fremont North. But that doesn't mean you can't, any end of the neighborhood can bring stuff, right? At anyone. So that one's going to be happening at March 23rd from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And on that note that Rogers with District 4, I've heard the presentation from the fire department, and not because I'm a little prejudiced, but I think it's an awesome presentation. So if you want to go see something that has about the history of Oxnard and the fire department in Oxnard, it is a wonderful presentation. I plan on being there and seeing it a second time. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. Hi, Ronald.
Good evening, Ronald Arwejo, East Village. We have our bulky item drop-off this Saturday, March 9. We also have our next neighborhood meeting, Monday, March 18, and our Councilman Madrigal will be there presenting. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody online? Deborah? Deborah, you have something?
Yes. So we will be having our next South Bank meeting on May 9th at the Rio del Norte Elementary School in the cafeteria. And at that meeting, we're going to be having our CPR sidewalk training, a review of our speeding on North 8th Street, as well as South Bank Road via Ventura Road and Vineyard. So those are still issues that we're looking at and reviewing. In addition to that, I'd like to announce that our Facebook account is growing. Last time we had our meeting, we were at 60. We're now at 67. So that's growing and people are getting information. There was a meeting that several of the council, South Bend Council attended, and it was via Zoom, and it's for the maintenance, landscaping, and a lot of things were resolved. So we're very happy about that. And at that meeting, there was Ellis Carter, Lindy Levin, and Chris Arvalo, and it went quite well, and a lot of resolution was done. So that's very good. For our May 9th meeting, we're also having a CPR sidewalk training for the fire department, and that'll be held in our cafeteria as well, and that will be from 6 to 6:30. And on April 20th, we are having a neighborhood cleanup. Any neighborhood South Bank neighbors who'd like to participate in cleaning up all around the circumference of our area in South Bank. And in addition to that, our bulky item will be in June. We do not have a date because we're jumping back and forth on the date in June, but I'll give further information about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
I apologize. I forgot to mention that we were going to have a meeting at the Community Center on Bard and Saviors on the 28th of March, 6 p.m. That's going to pretty much discuss the neighborhood cleanup that's going on the 6th of April, and that's going to be at Johnson Creek. And again, it's for everybody that's got the area, so it's not just for Blackstock North and South. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody up here have a neighborhood chair report? Dave?
Yeah, I have a report. Our meeting at Oxnard Dunes will be March 21st at 6 p.m. I did. At that meeting, we'll have Sarah. They're going to actually present, and so that's going to be nice. Our bulky dump is 4/20, April 20th. And I guess. And we are starting a website. We are building our website, so that'll be nice. I'll have to see how many followers we have on our Facebook now. But no, that's it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that we've missed? You, go ahead.
So David, from Fremont North, and just to reiterate what Kim had said, we're going to have our bulky item cleanup in coordination with Fremont South, Wilson, and Hobson on the 23rd of this month. That's it.
Okay, I don't believe that there's anybody else that wants to speak on this item, so having heard nothing, let's move on to the executive board reports. The executive board may individually report on items of interest or concern. The INCO cannot enter into detailed discussion or take action on any item presented during these reports. Do any of you guys have a report? Do you? No. Okay. Well, I am meeting with 3 different neighborhoods that have never been activated, and I know Cypress was one. The other 2 is escaping my mind. Marina Del Rey I already met with, and the couple that I met with seem to really want to get their neighborhood going. They are struggling a little bit with a small neighborhood, but they seem to be actively approaching or wanting to get their neighborhood active. So we're hoping that one will come on board soon, but not maybe until May. And then the other 2, Cypress, I just reached out today to, and I cannot remember the third one, but that's it for me. Our next executive board is next month, second Wednesday at 6. What date is it?
It's next Wednesday.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it's next Wednesday, not next month.
Unless you wanted to reschedule it.
Sorry. Thank you, Adam, for correcting me. I appreciate that. You guys, you're good? Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to Future agenda items. Does anybody have anything that they would like to see on our future agenda?
Chair,
Yeah.
I think it was last meeting, I asked for a report from the executive board to the membership about what your goals are for the INCO for 2024.
Okay.
Now, is that something that you will do, or do I need to ask for a motion and a second and to vote so that we understand what the executive board is planning for the INCO for the year? That is how it should go. Frankly, if you want to get an agenda item on the next agenda, you raise it, you move it, it gets second, and then we vote. And if it's, are we still a quorum? I don't know. But anyway, I mean, to ask for a future agenda item and deliver it to you, so that's a request.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll ask it again. Will the executive board provide a
Well,
report at a future agenda?
Yeah,
future
actually,
meeting?
we already set our future agendas, and it's like a short list, but, and I don't have it with me right now. But Adam, do you have it handy? If not, we will get it to you.
Okay, the other agenda item I'd like to request is Brown Act training for the INCO.
Yes,
It's
that's
really
always,
necessary.
that's been in discussion, and that's always a mandatory thing that I'd like to see every year. So it will be on an agenda, we just got to fit it in.
Could we get the Brown Act training next month?
We'll see.
That would be very useful, because I'm afraid we're in violation of the Brown Act in some of the meetings we're having. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any future agenda items? No? Nobody else? Okay. Having heard nothing, I move to adjourn the meeting. You second? Okay, all right. Meeting adjourned.
Oh, great. And take my card if you want electronically, we can send it to you. And there's other